Hey everyone, I have Heather back on the channel. Not a new face at all. I think Heather, you're probably one of the most, if not second most. Juna might have been on the channel like one or two more times ahead of you. But it's always a great time hanging out, talking Etsy, talking design, talking Kittl, all the updates and things going on with you. And so I want to get into some of those things. But I guess my first question is just, how are you doing? Like, we're halfway through the year. How are things with you? What's new? What's going on? And then we can hit some Etsy and design topics.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me back again, Drew. I love being on the Kittl channel. And as far as what's been going on, we moved. I think since the last time I spoke to you, I think I
Mm,
told you that we may be moving, or had we
mm.
moved yet? I'm not, I
I don't
don't,
think you have moved yet. I don't think.
yeah, we just moved to South Carolina. We're like right on
Oh,
the
okay.
border. We're about, I'd say, 20 minutes south of Charlotte area.
Wow, you're really close to
Um,
here now.
Yeah. So, pretty close because you live in Raleigh or
It's Raleigh. Yep.
Raleigh. I'm so sorry. I always
Oh
mispronounce it.
no.
I was like,
No.
I should have asked before.
No. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Raleigh.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So, um, we're still looking for homes. We're currently just
Okay.
renting. So right now we're renting in this area and we're looking to buy a home in the next year, so that's kind of exciting.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what else. There's not really anything new. I'm still working on the new Etsy and print on demand shop that we spoke about last year.
Yes.
That's been doing pretty well so
Okay.
far. Not as insane scaling as my first shop, I will say, but one of the reasons why is because I just haven't been working on it
Okay.
as well as I did in my first shop. Um, it's been hitting about 100 to a few $100 in profit per month, which is kinda
Nice.
cool to
Yeah.
see.
That's great.
Yeah, so kinda nice that, that's been doing pretty well, but yeah, that's kind of it in the life. Our dog just got her space surgery, so
Oh my
she
goodness.
yeah, so she's a little cone head, we call her. She's just
Yeah.
we're like, "Oh, hi, a cute little cone head. What are you doing?" Like
Yeah. A little space helmet.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
my
and
gosh.
sorry if you hear her in the background. She's my husband's watching her, but I know we have, my husband said that FedEx is supposed to deliver around this time.
Mm,
So if you hear her in the background, that's why she should stop barking after that. So,
gotcha. Yeah, no worries, no worries. Well, that's exciting. Wow. Okay, big move. You're the second person I've interviewed in the last 2 or 3 months that has moved somewhere. Obviously, I knew that was coming from you from the last time that we had talked, and so that kind of made sense because you were already in the midst of that. But it's just interesting how much moving is happening. In the previous Coffee with Kittl, I talked with Raj and Kat Howe. They own a design agency, first located mainly in London, but they've just moved to California
wow.
because they have lots of clients that are in the West and the Pacific Northwest, and they work a lot with clients there. So now they have two. Well, it's the same agency, but it's now they have two locations. So that was crazy. I mean, that's like a world changing move, actually, a life changing move, I should say.
Yeah.
So yeah, people are just moving all over the place. But yeah,
Yeah.
I hope things go well with the house search. That's always a stressful endeavor, but
Yep.
it's good to hear that the kind of Etsy testing that we talked about last time is going well. Now, the first thing I kind of wanted to ask is, you did a video that I actually have a plan to do, like my own version of one of the tips in one of the videos you did. I can't remember the exact title, but something, and I hope everybody watching this either goes and watches your video or just goes and does it, is I had absolutely no idea that you could bulk edit in Etsy. Like, you could select and bulk edit the tags or description, and that's incredible. I don't know how that's like not blatantly obvious. I don't know why I didn't think about that. Maybe you have an idea as to why, because you kept on saying something like, now this one's a little hidden, and it's like, why is it hidden, first of all?
Yeah.
But what I wanted to ask is like, and you touched on it a little bit, but obviously some products are going to be different. Some products, some designs are going to be different. So you can't really utilize the bulk feature that like specifically. So maybe you can explain like where it's most valuable, because I can think of like if you're just doing the same product in a bunch of different designs, I feel like that could save you so much time, you know?
Yep. Yeah, I think, if you're categorizing your shop, so this is something that it comes really in handy with is, let's say you have Christmas gifts in a category on your
Okay.
Etsy shop. So if
Yeah.
you select all and you wanna make sure that, let's say, all the descriptions say something with Christmas in the description, it's kinda easy to add in those keywords like, the perfect gift for a husband or for a wife. Because a lot of people might be
Yeah.
searching that on Etsy around Christmas time. So that's where it comes in handy is for specific niches to kind of add in those
Yeah. Okay.
keywords
Okay.
or, like dog lover niche, like the perfect
Mm.
gift for a dog or a new puppy, personalization, customization. Also, one way that I use this is when I'm bulk creating listings. So, one example, again, going back to the dog niche, if I'm creating 10 dog niche related products, then on Printify, I usually start with like the beginning title. So I'll only fill in 5 keywords when I make it on
Oh, okay.
Printify and I
Okay.
publish to Etsy. And then when I go to Etsy, I will bulk select those, let's say 10 listings that have the first 5 keywords filled in. And then I will add in like maybe, I don't know, 10 more keywords or whatever can fit in the 140 characters. I'll
Mm.
add in
Yeah.
just the end of those keywords because they're all going to be pretty similar as far unless I'm very micro niche. Let's say it's like for a corgi lover gift or a German shepherd
Okay. Yeah.
lover or parent gift. So that's kind of my hacks and whatnot, as far as that, but also tags too, right? Like if you are doing the micro niches, like a German Shepherd listing or German Shepherd lover listing or parent listing, you could start with a few tags, like do 3 tags for that micro niche, and then the other tags are still going to be for pretty much the same in the dog lover niche. Um, so like dog mom, dog dad, maybe dog lover gift.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So that's kind of what I've been doing with that bulk listing feature.
Yeah, and with the because I know you did an example with the bulk editing the description, the full description. You were saying like if you know that around a time period it's going to take like extra for shipping or something like that, the when you go to edit multiple, it doesn't like override what you've already done, right? So it's not going to is it going to delete everything and it has to all be the same? Or if you select multiple products to bulk edit the description, is it just adding on to like the bottom of that description? I guess the concern or the fear would be like if I go to bulk edit 10 descriptions, they all get deleted.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are 3 options. I believe it's 3. It's add, delete, replace. So
Mm,
you
okay.
can add in the beginning. And what's really nice is on Etsy, they allow you to, for descriptions, I know it allows you to add for the beginning or the end of a description. So if you don't want to wipe out the like metadata that shows up,
Yes.
for those Etsy listings in the first one, I think it's like, isn't it 160 characters or
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like the first 100 something characters of the listing is your metadata and description. So what I do is I'll add to the beginning for that. And then another thing that comes in clutch is around the holiday season when there might be shipping delays or order deadlines that people have to order by.
Yeah.
That's one thing that you can also add is, or replace the text area of, is adding in about order deadlines, maybe underneath that description area that you added in before. So there's ways to kind of go about that. But I feel like I kind of went off in a tangent on your question and
Oh,
didn't
no, no,
answer
that's
it.
great. Yeah.
Um, But yeah, there's a add, replace, delete function. So I believe I know for descriptions you can choose where. Um, I'm trying to think if it's for titles and tags, but I think for titles you can add to end because that's what I've done
Hmm.
in the past.
Yeah, I
Tags,
see.
yeah, tags is just I think you can add to the tags. So, but for shipping, it does take over. So whatever shipping, you would have to add in like a new shipping profile. And
Mm,
then once you
okay.
add in the new shipping profile, it will just add that to the listings that you selected on, but it doesn't delete the shipping profile. Like the old one, it will still be in your shipping profile. So just in case you made a oops and it's like, oh no, I think I
Yeah.
deleted that shipping profile,
Yeah.
then you can still go back and reselect it. So
Right. Yeah. Man, that's super helpful to because that's what takes me the longest amount of time. Just all of this editing when you know like a good portion of it is going to be the same. So
mhm.
that's going to speed people up like so much. And I was very happy to come across that and be like,
Yeah.
oh, I can actually do this at the same time.
Yep.
Um, so I wanted to ask about uh, if you've seen Etsy be on the news. They've been on the news a couple times at this point. There have been kind of some outrageous or outraged sellers, I should say, more in the handcrafted category that kind of feel like drop shipping and print on demand is taking over, or the kind of templated digital products are kind of taking over. And but amidst all of that, because it's Etsy's prerogative who they allowed to sell on Etsy, so there's nothing we can do about that. But I wanted to know what you thought about this introduction of a new seller fee that is this one time. I think it's $15 to open up a new shop. I did a not a super extensive video. I was just reacting to the CNBC news one, and somebody mentioned the $15 is only for brand new sellers. If you have an existing one, you can do a new shop. And I'm like, no, because you have to do a new email address for a new shop, unless I'm mistaken. But just as you know, a long term Etsy seller and enthusiast, I wanted to know what you think about all of this stuff happening.
Yeah. I think I kind of have mixed feelings about it. So
Okay.
it's tough because it's a barrier to entry now, right? Like
Okay.
before it was, oh, you can start and you pay 20 cents per
20
listing
cents. Yeah.
fee. So it's much easier, but now we have the barrier of entry that's a little bit higher as far
Mhm.
as investment wise goes, right? So we have
Okay.
$15 plus 20 cents per listing fee. So I think that that's tough for new business owners, but I think that what Etsy is doing is good in the long run for Etsy as a platform. And
Okay.
the reason why I think that is just due to the increased number of scam messaging that we've seen on Etsy
Yes. Oh
that
my gosh. Yeah.
yeah, I think Etsy had to make this step because since it was a free entry, that there were so many scam accounts that were being created because it was like, "Oh, these scam accounts can just create their account for free and they don't have to pay 20 cents." I mean, maybe they could pay 20 cents for a listing or whatever or, you know, whatever they wanted, but also Etsy was having a problem with these accounts who created many listings and they were trying to sell products to real customers on Etsy. Customers were buying their products and not getting shipped the products. And then
Okay.
those sellers would just leave Etsy. And that's where Etsy had a problem because they were just, it looked like they were scamming customers when it wasn't really Etsy. It was those sellers who were fraudulent and they were just
Yeah.
selling to real customers, and that kind of was tarnishing Etsy too in a way. So I think it's a good thing that there is a barrier now, but it is tough that, it's kind of like that one bad egg in the dozen kind of did it
Hmm.
for all of Etsy
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And the new sellers who want to start, and it's hard for them to think of investing more than what was initially the investment point. I think that that's a little bit tougher, but it does help at least in the long-term run of Etsy. And Etsy as a platform is just starting with that investment, and that's helping to keep the whole of Etsy and the platform safe. But yeah, I look at it from a new seller perspective though, and when I began, that would have been a huge bummer for me and probably something that would make it harder for me to say, "Okay, yes, I'll start my business."
Mm.
But that's just from my perspective. I kind of play, I guess, devil's advocate in my head because I'm like, well, we have this new safety measure, and I believe that
Yeah.
Etsy is using this money to reinvest into keeping the platform safe, you know? So, but then again, it's like when you're a new seller, it's just tough because it's like,
Yeah, it's like
okay,
you don't care about that yet because 'cause you're a new seller.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think I'm very much like you in that regard. I mean, what I thought was really funny in the news video, which covered a variety of sellers. Some people I didn't know who they were, and then I know the SEO, the SEO, the CEO of Etsy was also in there talking. But there was a part where it said after this $15 implementation, Etsy saw a massive increase in revenue in like April, whatever. And I was like, obviously,
Yeah,
like obviously you did. If another 2,000 new Etsy accounts happen and all of them have to pay $15, obviously your revenue would be increased. I just thought that was a
yeah,
funny like statistic to report on because like that it was clear that they needed to do something one to at least make more money. But I mean, I see what you're saying on the barrier of entry paywall. My thought behind that is like anything with a paywall is should instigate a higher quality. Should. I'm not saying that it necessarily will. Still people that have, I guess, money to blow that just want to open an Etsy account and just kind of berate it with whatever, like they could do that. But generally, like you think about things like closed communities that have a paywall, and they are that way for like the quality and the integrity of like the communication that's being had, right?
mhm,
So, and that's something that I'm always thinking about, and I've listened to podcasts on a variety of topics that all kind of hit on this. um is it good to have a paywall? What should be free? What should not be free? um yeah, I mean, it does differ how Etsy's, I guess, mission might be now that they've done that, right? Because they've always been a place where, like you said, you can get started and then you have your 20 cent, whatever. And now it has to be pay to play, right? So now it's not just pay to play in that I'll give Etsy my ad money. So I'll run ads for Etsy to give me traffic. But now it's like you actually do have to pay
yeah,
to to get in and play. So, but I'm like you because I'm like maybe it doesn't really help us, I guess, with all of the accounts that are just kind of spamming listings with 100 of the same thing. But I guess they're trying to eliminate the amount of that happening, if that makes sense.
yep, yeah, and also to just add on to your point about there's been an issue, for the past year or 2 years that a lot of us Etsy sellers have been asking for change from Etsy, right? We've been
Right.
asking
Sure.
for more humans behind the screen
Oh yeah.
on Etsy's customer service because the bot system, uh, since we've had an increase of sellers on the platform, the bot system has had to go into overdrive because the number
Yeah.
of Etsy support team is the ratio between Etsy support team and humans behind the screen on that
Not a
to
lot.
the
Yeah.
amount of sellers and listings on the platform is just such a huge difference now that Etsy's had to lean more into the bot system. And I think that this $15 startup fee and those startup fees that are being incurred is just to also get more staff behind too. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know if
Interesting.
that's for certain what
Sure.
Etsy's idea is, but I know that as a company, it's hard to grow and get more humans behind the staff part instead of the
Yeah.
bots. So that's just what I'd hope that Etsy's doing with that increase of revenue. But I don't, it's one of those things that I guess we'll see when the investor reports come through,
Mm,
and just
true.
Etsy's news.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
hopeful though.
Yeah, that would be well warranted and much appreciated across the board because I mean, I cannot tell you how many times I'll talk to anybody, whether it's for Coffee with Kittl or otherwise, that they'll say like, "Now I'm not trying to, poo poo on Etsy, but they have been known to just delete accounts for no reason." You know what I mean? And it's like, and it's
Yeah.
sad because it's like, why? Like, you don't necessarily see Amazon doing that all over the place. I mean, I don't have as much data, I guess, on deleted or flagged accounts on Amazon. Obviously, the barrier of entry there is also a little bit more difficult. You don't have to pay, but you do have to like, they're just very limited in who they let in.
Mhm.
So like I get that. I get that side of it. That more human interaction would be amazing. And also like not I think one of the biggest issues that the sellers had um, was like I want to talk to a person before the account actually gets deleted. Like it's fine if the bot handles all the way up to the threshold of what's going to happen, but like if I've only got 30 days to amend whatever error, which is never also very vividly explained, they want the last and final say to be an individual. And I mean, yeah, that you're right. That's just the ratio of the amount of sellers to Etsy employees is like nowhere close. I don't even think Etsy has that many employees. Like it's not a massively employee based company, even though they're so big. So I think that that would be amazing. Either they have to pour money into whatever AI system they're using to be a lot better, or they're going to have to create a complete segment of support team that handles these flagged accounts. I guess
Yep.
does that sound like what you would want?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think that would be great if Etsy took that step. But yeah, it's tough when it's kind of like, man, I wish I could like work for Etsy at some point, because you hear
Insight change.
yeah, yeah, because I mean, I'm sure your channel's the same, but I get comments all the time about Etsy suspending and what
Yeah,
could be the reason. And,
yeah,
all we know is really the hypotheticals and
yeah.
kind of just what
You're right.
we've known from experience is, oh, we know shops get shut down because maybe someone under the same IP address as them favorites their shop, and come to find out they're just at work and someone
Yeah.
favorites their shop, like one of their coworkers favorites their shop, and it's
Oh yeah.
tough when that happens. So
Yeah, and I've also heard that people I don't know, people that live in the US, they'll be on, vacation in another like in Canada or in Europe and they've got time off and they just decide, you know what, I'm gonna start an Etsy shop. But because they were on the computer opening the Etsy in a different country, like in a week or so they take it they suspend it or they shut it down, right? Because they put in all of their US information, which is real, but they were in the computer was in a different location. I got comments like that on a couple of the previous videos, which
yeah,
is just so unfortunate. And we have one of our employees, Duda, that happened to her. She was living, in a for the time being, she was living in a different location, but put all of her, legal address information, SSN, which I'm not sure exactly. I think it's just a different identification number. But then it was like up for a week, and then they just shut it down. They just deleted it,
yeah,
and it's like it's in the. I guess the only idea from digging and digging and digging was because of that. Was because you weren't in the location that you plugged in, which is just silly, but yeah, I mean, I see what you mean. And it would be way more beneficial if there was if there was a human at least at the last call kind of thing, where it's like you let the AI do what it has to do because it can be helpful, but don't let it have the last say in
Yep.
shutting a shop down. But I want to go back real quick to the new $15 thing and talk about how this is also relevant specifically for print on demand people. And I wonder, we must have talked about this at some point. I would be remiss to think we didn't, but might as well ask it again. I'm wondering how many comments you get like this. I get a lot of comments on any videos where we're talking about making a design for Etsy or print on demand for Etsy or whatever. And the struggle that people have, or the question that they're posing, is like, how am I supposed to do this if Etsy holds the funds for the sale? So, and I guess if anybody's new to this, I'll just briefly explain. Like, you set up your print on demand provider, whether it's Printful, Printify, you've got that all linked to your Etsy. You've worked on your Etsy. Now they're synced. And so your listings, like whether it's a shirt, sweater, whatever is coming from Printful or Printify or Gelato, it's showing on Etsy. Someone buys it on Etsy, but their money is not used to, like, that the money is not communicated to Printful or Printify. Printful or Printify is going to use your card on file, so your credit card or your bank account or your debit card, to start the order, while the funds that the customer gives you remains in Etsy. And the question is, well, one, I'm really just asking you, like, what's the best advice for this? Because I do have some thoughts, but like, say you're charging $35 for a sweater, it costs $25 to fulfill it. The 25 is going to come out of your bank account, your credit card, or whatever. So Printful or whatever can do that. The 35 is now going to sit in Etsy, and specifically for new sellers that aren't already on the kind of recurring threshold, it gives you some message like, we're going to hold 70% of this until the person gets their item. I don't know what the correct messaging is.
Yeah.
And the question is, how am I supposed to do this if Etsy just holds on to the money? So I don't know if
Yep.
you get comments like that, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I do all the time. And that's where it kind of comes to funding and what your risk tolerance is as a
Okay.
new seller. I think that's something to establish before you ever sell with Printify or just any print on demand company. And selling on
Okay.
Etsy is, what's your risk tolerance? And for
Hmm.
me, I know I was like, okay, well, I'm going to skip out on getting Chipotle or Starbucks as often, and I'm going to save, like
Yeah.
50 to
Okay.
$100.
Okay.
And that's kind of, it's good that we're talking about this because I think that's something to note when you begin is if you
Hmm.
want to start a print on demand business in this year and going forward, starting and saving up to 50 to $100, especially if you do get a sale within your first week and you have that payment hold, that's a good place to start, first off.
Yeah. Oh my
Uh,
gosh. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, and the second thing is also, maybe considering going to apply for a business credit card before you
Okay.
start too.
Yeah.
It is tough to establish a credit line for your business even when you're in. I can only speak for the US, but I know for the US and getting your LLC established, your business starts with its own credit line. It doesn't matter. I mean, it
But
kind of,
yours, it's kind of connected, but kind of not.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yep. So it's kind of connected, kind of not to your own credit. So, how long your business has been established for, how
Hmm.
much revenue
Hmm.
your business is making per year. When you start off, usually a lot of credit card companies are going to start you at a lower amount, but it's good to kind of open with them sooner than later.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
if you are able to start your own business credit card, that's something that I did when I began. However, I kinda messed up when I'm gonna be completely honest and transparent, but I messed up when I first began, and I do say this on my own YouTube channel, but I started with my personal credit card
Yeah, that's how
because
I did too. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was, really stressful at when
Mm.
tax year came around and tax time came around because I had to have an accountant weave through all of my
Yeah.
transactions and my personal credit card and then also my, personal checking because I had funds being deposited from
Mhm.
Etsy to my personal. And, looking back, I wish I just started with a business credit card and
Mm.
business checking first. But again, like my credit line on my credit card that was personal was enough for me.
Yeah.
So, but even, for credit card statements, this was just my what I did is I waited until because I had a hold period on my new shop I opened last year too. And
Right, yeah.
given I have funding from my last business, I transferred my, funds to my new business. So I was someone that is obviously not representing the average new seller, so I do wanna note that. But I did have fund hold last year, and I did get my funds before, the 30 days of
Hmm.
getting hit with interest on my credit card.
Oh, okay, I see, I see. Yeah, okay.
So, that's kinda what I honed in on is I paid off my credit card every time I got funds back before I got the interest fees for my credit card on the new shop because
Mhm.
I was still getting more sales than the funds that I funded my account with. So, if that
Right.
makes any sense, I was
Yeah, yeah. You had enough to
spending
pay it
more.
off each month, right.
Yeah, yeah. So, but that's what I would recommend to beginners though is to look into maybe getting a business credit card and having maybe 100 to $200 in a business checking as well, and maybe saving up to that if you don't have that yet to start there. But if you're not registering an LLC, and this is I'm not a legal or tax professional advice by any means. I always
Sure.
recommend going to one. Have
Yeah.
to disclaim that anytime I talk about business and legal, but um, with opening a new shop, if you're not registered as an LLC, you technically are a sole proprietorship
That's
when you
right.
start off.
Yep.
And that's still connected to your personal finances. So if you
Mm.
haven't opened an LLC, you can use your personal
Yeah.
finances to
Mhm.
fund and you can use a personal credit card. Just when you make the switch to an LLC, that's when you want to take those documents to your bank account and create that business checking and credit card with that LLC registration. So, and that's what I learned, through my time.
Right.
That's what I did in my own experience. But, and again, all based for the United States, but hopefully that helps anyone watching this is sometimes you may need to slowly kind of work your way up to the LLC route because sometimes an LLC doesn't make sense for everyone. And again, this is a time that speaking to a legal professional, if you feel like you're at that place and at that state, would be a good time to do so. And
Right.
also, there's a lot of YouTubers who are lawyers who talk about LLCs too. I think All Up in Your Business on YouTube, I've watched in the past. That's what I watched when I was kind of like,
Okay.
is an LLC right for me or not?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all I have to say on that though.
Yeah, no, that's good, that's good. I think that that's maybe what's insinuating a lot of the fear because it's not that instantaneous, um result that you're gonna get from, like, a Shopify or your personal, right? So, it's gonna go through, the transaction's gonna go through. If it's successful, a deposit's gonna be made, right? And it's like, you still I mean, it's the same theory. If you or not same theory, same process. If you connect Printful or Printify to your Shopify, or in my case, to my Squarespace, I still have to have a card on file for Printful or Printify to take the funds, and then I collect the funds from Shopify or Squarespace. But I think what I'm thinking is this is why it's so much more important to have your like research done well so that and now more than ever, so this is like a great point in history that we're talking because now there is a $15 entry fee. There's a subscription fee to Kittl if you're going to use Kittl or any other tool. There's either a one-time fee or a subscription fee. Just depends on how many updates happen to a tool, really. Or, for example, if you're a lettering artist or an illustrator, Procreate, something like that. So you've got that fee, and then you have basically time. It's just up to you, like how much the time investment is going to determine, I think, how much money is going to come in and or you have to put out. So if you don't have lots of time and you do have lots of money, then you can potentially get successful really fast because you can just spend a crap ton in ads, let's say. It won't work if what you're doing is not good. So I think there's still the research part of that that's really important. If you don't have lots of money and you do have lots of time, then that's even kind of, I don't want to say better, but it is kind of better because it's like you can research to know what you're doing, what you're putting out is going to be successful so that you don't have the constant anxiety and concern that Etsy's going to hold my funds. Like I have to have money in the bank and or like you said, you and I both did the same thing. We went the credit card route. Mine was a personal credit card, but it was pretty clean in that all that was coming out was just whatever was coming from Printful essentially.
Yeah.
But it's easier that way because it's like most entry credit card things have some sort of 12 to 15 months 0%. So like you said, if you're paying it off by the end, you're not going to get hit with that ongoing thing. Like let's say something crazy happens, like there's 100 orders in a day. That would be amazing. But like,
Yeah.
and it just sucks out like a ton of money and then you have to wait for Etsy to give it to you, right? Then it's still, you can kind of rest in knowing you have that 0% for 12 to 15 months. But I think what I'm trying to say here, and I would like to know your thoughts and encouragements to people, because I know you talk a lot about this. You talk a lot about research, SEO, really understanding what you're doing first. I think that's the play that will provide you with less anxiety about Etsy holding your funds because now you have that information that that's just a part of the game. They're going to do it. You're going to get sales and they're going to hold it for up to 30 days. And or I think when the customer gets their item and they see that it happens a couple times, they just let it go. I think that's what happened for me. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like, that's a part of the game now. So what's happening though is that part of the game is stopping people. So, and there's a lot more in that that's unpacked, but I would like to know what your kind of thoughts are around that.
Yeah, I think, like you said earlier about pay to play, we are kind of in that area now where it is more of a pay to play area. I know when I began, it wasn't necessarily, I mean, I was still paying to play because you pay 20 cents per listing
Oh,
fee.
sure. Yeah,
So,
yeah. Yeah.
I was paying, I'd say 20 to $50 when I began, but now add on the 15 and whatnot. But yeah, it is a pay to play world, it seems like now,
Hmm.
where we do have to invest a little bit. And I want to say, as far as investing goes, if we compare it to brick and mortar businesses,
Okay.
brick and mortar businesses, you usually have to pay up a lot upfront cash
Oh,
and taking
so
out
much.
business loans, like over
Yeah.
5 figures, to just start a brick and mortar
Mm,
business of some sort. And we're very, very fortunate now that we can start a business online with a few hundred,
mm,
or 50 to a few hundred. And I know not everyone has that to start up, but I know sometimes the credit card route could be a good way for some people if you really know you're going to make this work and you want to make it work. But again, I don't want to give like financial advice
yeah,
and put
yeah.
it out there and say like, hey, do this. Because if you really have a gut feeling that it's not right for you, then
Mm,
please do not take that step. Don't put yourself in debt over something like
yeah.
this,
100%. Yeah.
do what's comfortable for you. And I do recommend saving. If you can save that amount that you're willing to go in on a business for, then that's usually a safe place to be.
Yeah, good point.
Um, don't go into debt for, a lot of debt for a business. I want to say that too. I want to be careful on my words here, but um, from my experience, when I began, I was not seeing sales for a little bit. I spent
Mm,
probably 50 to $100, did not
mm,
see I
Yeah.
was spending on mock-ups,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was spending on listing fees. I even opened up, like, my own website, and then I
Oh, wow.
closed it within,
Oh,
like, a month. Like, I
okay.
was just like, "Oh, let me try, like, WordPress and see if I can connect
Oh,
my
no.
print on demand," and it was really bad. It was so bad, and that was my
Yeah.
first time trying,
Oh, man.
but
That's tough.
yeah, I spent money on ads, like, I threw a lot of money at, Etsy ads, and I didn't see many sales, so
Mm.
I've kinda been through it as well and spending money, losing money, and then, after some time, though, I I was able to at least pay off what I spent on my credit card
Right. Right.
because I knew realistically I could pay it off. Even if it went south, I could pay it off with my job, like just
Oh, sure.
working my
Yeah.
9 to 5. It was like, "Oh, I could pay it off with the money I make with my 9 to 5 so I could pay off my credit card." But luckily for me, I started seeing sales within a few months of really investing my time and, money into my business, and if you're looking to make this work, I think starting with, 50 to $100, that's still reasonable.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
is
yeah.
a little bit tough. You're kind of bootstrapping it in the beginning and paying as you go, but
Mhm.
50 to $100 and give it 3 to 6 months to see if you're seeing that traction. It takes time. You don't have to spend in ads with Etsy, which is kind of nice because of
Yeah,
the
you don't have to.
organic
Yeah.
traffic that's already built into Etsy.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's millions of customers that go to Etsy every single month, and if you really lock down your organic routes of growing your business, so you can start social media accounts that's completely free.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
know,
Pinterest, yeah.
yeah, and sharing on, social media like you may already have if you have an Instagram, a TikTok, Facebook.
Mm. Mhm. Mhm.
Some people discount how powerful the platforms you're already on, and I know it feels like weird telling your friends and family and old coworkers or friends from high school you haven't seen in forever and making a post about your new Etsy shop, but that could go a long way in
Yeah.
jumpstarting some traffic in your
Oh,
business,
yeah.
completely free route. So, but yeah, that's kind of my, I guess, advice in this is starting that way and that route, for funding. So, and I think I
Yeah.
went off tangent again, and I'm
Oh,
so
no.
sorry.
Oh, no, that's perfect. Yeah, I think that there's a hurdle, a blocker in how people think about it, and it's so interesting to hear. I mean, it's such good advice and makes total sense. I don't know why all of us haven't been saying it the whole time, but it's like, okay, well, if you're worried about the hold, the fees hold, then save up to do it. That's the blocker in that what people are thinking is like, no, Etsy is supposed to make me money. So why would I need to save my money to have the Etsy or whatever make money for me? So, but I think that that's like what you're saying, what I'm saying, it's like part of the game. So it's like if that is a real concern and you're concerned about either whatever your full-time or your part-time job not being able to cover what might come out quickly, right? This also really depends on how successful you think you're going to be as a shop. I guess in my mind, the internal question is like, am I afraid that I'm really going to make 100 to 200 sales in like a couple days and it's going to suck my credit card amount down and then they're just going to hold $200 to $300? Or am I more concerned that I'm going to make one or two sales and they're just going to hold my $30 for, and it's like the 100 to 200 sales a day is probably rare for starting out. The more likely is that Etsy's going to hold 25 to $30 of your profit until the person gets their shipped item,
Yep,
essentially. So I think some of this hurdle is like, how successful do you really think you're going to be? And if it's the latter, that's awesome. So I would go your route and like, let's make sure we have some money saved to at least take over whatever the incurred cost is before Etsy's going to give us our money. And then after that, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't, the message went away. I had it for like a month on my new shop. I made like 8 sales or something. And after about after about that seventh or eighth sale of the month, the message went away, I think, because I had 3 or 4 products that had been delivered, and so they saw that recurred successfulness, the integrity of your shop, I think,
Mhm.
that they were like, "Okay, this is an actual account. They're not gonna." And so this really goes back to the whole thing we're talking about Etsy trying to be more safe and not spamming. And like the reason, at least in my mind, they're holding those fees is if the person does not get their shipped item, Etsy has to use that to give their money back. So
Yep.
yeah, I think it really depends on what your angle, what your perspective of Etsy is. Yes, obviously it's going to be a thing that's going to make money for you, but I like your idea of treating it much more like an actual business where the costs are nowhere close to if I had set up a shop down in downtown Raleigh, which is going to cost me probably $12,000 to $15,000 just in due diligence to say I want a space. So we're
Yeah.
nowhere close to those costs, you know?
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think that it's almost like any career that we've all went through. The first, day of your job really stinks because you don't know anyone. You
Mm,
don't know the job yet. You're kind of
hmm.
just training and
Yeah.
it and you're kind of, it's almost like schooling too, right? When I was in school for X-ray, I joined my X-ray program, and one big part of it is you go to clinicals and you're paying your clinical instructors, like you're paying your college thousands every single semester to show up and do work and you're just at a negative for several years
Yeah. Oh my
until
gosh.
you
Yeah.
get a degree. And I think we all forget about that when we're starting a business. I mean, we all did it in school. What's the difference? And I think that's something to remember is what's the difference between all of us going to college or, um, you know, we don't pay, in high school, but like our parents are paying for us to get books and materials for school. And
Mm,
it's all kind of going back to business where it's a part of education. It's a part of starting something and investing in something just like college, but instead you're investing that into a business. And relatively speaking, we're comparing, spending thousands to a college tuition and maybe a few hundred to a business model that
yeah.
could make thousands much
Yeah.
quicker than your college degree might. And I hate to say that, like, I know that's very fighting words. I went to college, highly
Sure.
recommend college. I loved going through, my programs that I did. I went to college for 5 years, but I ended up quitting my job that I went 5 years to college for. And I ended up creating this life and this business that has made me thousands and upon thousands and so that's I guess my positive takeaway at the end of this. And I
Oh
know
yeah.
it's hard to hear if you're newer and it's like, okay, like I get it, but it still sucks and it does suck in the beginning. And that's kind of what I'm getting at is it's going to suck in the beginning and there's no
Yeah.
way around that. You just got to
Mm,
get through the first few months, learn, take things as a learning experience when you're losing money. Take that as, okay, how did I lose money? What can I do better? What maybe look at your expenses or what other shops are doing that you might not be doing that you can take some inspiration from too. But that's kind of, I guess, the positive in a way, I guess, or just validation for those of you
yeah.
who might be going through that. So
Yeah. That's excellent. That might be what people need to hear. They just need to hear like it 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 just kind of sucks in the beginning.
yeah,
Like it's not this, and that's not to say that it couldn't be successful in a week. It could. I don't know. But like for the most part, the beginning just sucks. I think that's what you need to hear. And then if you just kind of come to terms with that and internalize that, it's like, okay, all right, I'm gonna do this now because I have the predisposition that it's gonna suck.
yeah.
So that's the most perfect motivational quote I think that we've ever ended a coffee with Kittle on.
Yay.
um, but I do wanna say for those of you watching and listening, because we're on Spotify now, by the way. If you're not
Awesome.
subscribed to the Spotify, please go over there, give us a rating. That'd be amazing for those of you watching and listening. Comment either here or I believe now you can comment in Spotify, which is dangerous, but also very cool. Comment what questions, what extra questions, what extra thoughts. It's always interesting, those of you that are commenting with like your whole story. I always take a little bit more time because I do answer every single comment on YouTube. I do take a little bit more time to really read those in-depth 1, 2, 3 paragraph stories of your thoughts about Etsy, and I try to kind of take that and think about them as I put them in another video or when I'm talking with Heather, for example. So comment below either your thoughts or your questions, either one of those. And then what I want to know now, Heather, is if you have anything coming up that's new, what kind of stuff should we expect on your YouTube? I can't remember if you said you were re-orchestrating or revitalizing your course or if that was someone else, because I know you have one. But anything that's going on for you, let's end with that.
Yeah, still posting content on YouTube weekly. I have a new membership that's opening up this next
Oh,
month.
okay.
So yeah, that's kind of just live coaching monthly,
Nice.
live like Etsy news, trends, things like that. It's something that a lot of YouTube subscribers and my email list have has been asking for.
Amazing.
People have just been messaging me like, "Hey, do you do coaching or
Mm,
anything?"
mm,
So
mm.
finally coming out with that. 2 years since being on YouTube, so that's kind of cool.
Amazing.
I have a free print-on-demand crash course though, so if anyone's watching and you have no idea where to start with
Mm,
print-on-demand and Etsy, that's a completely free course on how to set up an Etsy shop, what you need to know, like as far as payment goes, what we were talking about. I kind of go over that in the free course. And then the YouTube channel, I post free content, free tutorials all the time on there. So yeah.
yeah, and about to hit 100,000 subscribers. Is that right?
Yeah,
That's
yep.
gonna be amazing. Yeah, it's gonna be party
Yeah.
time after that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, well, everyone, please go check out all of those links down in the description to Heather's stuff, to the Spotify for Coffee with Kittl if you haven't already. Feel free to also suggest to us other Etsy topics and or other people to have on the channel. I'm always open to that as well. Heather, thanks so much again for hanging out and deep diving into some of these tough questions. So this is always a pleasure to talk to you. Everyone listening and watching, please subscribe to both Heather's channel and to Kittl if you haven't yet. It's like a button that's like right there, and it'll take you 1 second. You just click it, done. You're good to go.
Yep.
So please do that, and we will see you in the next video.
See you
Bye.
guys.